Hello everyone and welcome back to our first learning journey lesson for this week. Today's date is Monday the 11th of May 2020. I just want us to start by thinking about what our learning journey question is. We've had a few days out from our learning journey, so I want us just to get back and focus on our question. Can you remember it? Pause the video, have a think, look back through your previous learning. Okay, here it is. Hopefully you can remember it. It is, how does a plant's environment affect its growth? Okay, good job. And I wonder if anybody could also remember what our gateway to learning is. Can you remember what we looked at back a couple of weeks ago now? We started thinking about it. We're going to be thinking about it even more throughout our learning journey. That's it, well done. It is flourishing. So seeking a purpose for life, taking responsibility for my own well-being and supporting others with theirs. So we had a little think about things that we can do to make sure that we are looking after ourselves and others around us. And remember, we're looking at how plants can flourish or not in different environments, and also thinking about ourselves as well. Okay, so let's get started with our learning for today. Last week, we were looking at different parts of plants. Okay, so labelling different parts of plants and their functions. And we also started to look at how water is transported into plants. So this is our plan for this week. We're going to review the investigation that I started last week and think about how temperature affects water transportation in plants. We're going to actually take a closer look at flowers and explain the roles they play, the important roles they play in pollination and fertilisation. We're going to have a look at the life cycle of flowering plants, and we're also going to do a bit of research this week about how plants can survive in different environments, because lots of you were asking me when we did our what we know already or questions we need to answer is, well, what about plants that perhaps thrive in the desert and flourish in the desert? How is that different, and why do they need different things? So we're going to start to look at that. And as scientists, we're going to make careful observations. We're going to focus again on recording information using labelled diagrams, and also gathering, recording and presenting data when we do our research. Okay, so let's get started then. Our Can I question for today is, can I explain the effect temperature has on water transportation in plants? So that's the investigation that I set up last week. And before I go back and review it, I want you to have a little think about if you can explain how water is transported in plants. Now, you'll recognise this diagram from last week. We've got a flowering plant here, and we've got the roots, the stem, and the leaves. And I've put some keywords here: absorbed, transported, and evaporates, which we defined last week. Here is your first activity today. I would like you to see if you can explain, using these keywords, our key vocabulary, how water is transported in plants. That's what we looked at last week. So can you remember? Okay, so have a think. What happens to the water in the roots? Up through the stem, and then what happens out through the leaves? And then, just like we said, just like a straw, as more water something, what happens to the roots? And it's sucked up like a straw. So I want you to think about if you can explain how water is transported in plants. And you can do this in a variety of ways. You could record a video of your explanation. That would be fantastic, and upload it to Class Dojo. You could write a description using journal, so write the description straight onto your journal on Class Dojo. You could act it out, get a bit creative and record a video of you acting it out. You could use other people to help you at home, or you could draw a diagram for me and label it with an explanation and take a photo and upload it to Class Dojo. So lots of options. I want you to get a bit creative and see if you can explain this important scientific process to me. Once you're ready, once you've done that, come back to the video because I want to show you our results from the investigation that we started. Okay, so really interesting. This, as you can see here, these are photos of the celery that I put into the food colouring last week. Now, you remember I did pink food colouring and blue. Actually, the pink worked so much better. You couldn't really see the blue, so I haven't put the photos on here. But what you can see, and you can see it close up here, that's the whole piece of celery. And you can hopefully just about see from the pictures here that the red food colouring had been transported up through the plant stem, okay, up to the leaves of the plant, and then obviously had evaporated, but the dye has been left behind. So you can see on the edges of the leaves here that the dye has been left, and that's the pink red part on the end here. So then I looked closely at the bottom of my celery plant here, and can you see we've got these little holes you can see in the bottom of the plant, okay, and that is where the water is sucked up through. I then chopped the end off, and you can still see here evidence of where the water has gone up through. It's kind of like the veins of a plant, like we have veins in our body that transports water around. These are like the veins in a plant sucking up the water, and we can see that it has been sucked up through here because the pink dye has been left behind. So that was a really cool experiment and worked really well. The red worked much better than the blue. So hopefully maybe some of you have tried that at home. If you haven't done, and you have got some food colouring in your cupboard and maybe some celery, or you could try it with maybe another vegetable that you find that you're not using. So it could be maybe a leek or a cauliflower. See if it works the same. See if you can see if the food colouring turns the plant different colour. So that was really, really interesting for me to see the celery investigation, and hopefully you got, if you had a go at it at home, some similar results. I can't wait to see. Now, I also did an experiment where I put 3 flowers in some food colouring, and I put them in different places in the house, places where the temperature was different. So a cold place, a room temperature place, and a warmer place. And here I've got the results. Now, it didn't work as well as I wanted it to begin with. The flowers that I chose to begin with didn't really seem to work, so I had to get some new flowers and start the investigation again. Also, it didn't happen as quickly as I thought it would. It took over 24 hours for me to start to see a difference. So I took photos of each one in the different environment, and here they are. So here we've got the one in the cold environment. There wasn't any difference at all, no change yet after 24 hours. It might be different if I leave it for a bit longer, and so I'll keep you updated on the progress of that, but no change at all. This one here, now you have to observe quite closely, so hopefully you can see from the photographs, there started to be some different spots and very slight change of colour in this one. Whereas the one in the warmest environment, here you can see on the edge of the petals, you can see the pink where the water has been transported through the stem and is actually coming out through the petals here, evaporating through the petals and leaving our dye behind. So I would like you to have a go at writing a scientific conclusion for me here. I have started it, but I need your help. So I've got some gaps and I've got some ideas down here to fill them in. I wonder if you can help me. So on a piece of paper, if you just write today's date for me so that I know when you're writing it, and our can I question, can I explain the effect temperature has on water transportation in plants? And then I'd like you to have a go at writing the conclusion here and fill in the gaps. So Conclusion. From my observations, I can see that the flower in the something environment changed colour something. The something, the place, the something, water is transported around the plant. This is because water, something faster at higher something, causing more water and dye to be sucked up through the stem. So here are your options. You need to complete the gaps based on what we could see in our observations and what we just spoke about. Well done for today, everybody, and see you tomorrow when we're going to have a closer look at a plant's flowers.